couple of weeks ago, we talked about Creep, and I did say that we'd follow it with the sequel, so here we are, with 2017's Creep 2. Again directed by Patrick Brice, who again shares writing credits with Mark Duplass. Brice does not feature, but Duplass is joined by Desiree Akhavan and Karen Sony for a bit at the beginning at least, as Dave. And this is a different beast to its predecessor. Stylistically, it's the same, but there's a lot of different themes, there's a lot of different ideas that it works with, and we get a more definite amount on how many victims that Aaron, as he's now calling himself, has had. But this was always going to be different. There are people who, said with the original, wouldn't it be interesting if a woman was involved? The sort of opposite sex scenario could be very interesting. It could give us something very different. And so they tried it. I think it does give us something very different. Is it better? In some ways, but in others it's worse. But I think a lot of the ways that this film is worse, I think comes from maybe production notes. As with a lot of sequels, when there's more money involved and there's sort of investors who want to get a good return, you do get a lot more notes of, can we do this, can we do that? The first film, I said, although I generally hate jump scares, they were earned, or they were funny, or whatever. They generally were okay. The last one was annoying, but again, that might have been a production note. This time around, they're all production notes to me. None of them felt earned, none of them felt worthwhile, none of them really just sat with me well. I was constantly waiting for it to move on past that point. A lot of the characterization of Aaron, I'm going to use his name in this one, was different as well. He's a lot more awkward. But I think that's because Sarah is someone who knows herself. I did get the feeling that a lot of his previous, as we see with Dave and with the real Aaron, there is this whole thing where they are very malleable, very easy to lead, and very kind of gentle people. Sarah is very independent, very forthright. She knows her own mind. She challenges Aaron in this one. And that's an interesting dynamic. It's one of the things I really did like about it. It gave us a very different feel. A very different thing for Aaron to be facing off against. But there was one thing that I really think was a production note that was either intentionally or accidentally misinterpreted. I want it to be intentionally. I want this to be a middle finger to investors. Because in a lot of sequels, you'll get the more jump scares, please, and etc. But you'll also get, can we have a bit of nudity? Can you flash some boob or whatever? And they obviously got that note and went, oh, you want more nudity? We can do that. We do get a full frontal nude shot, just probably not in the way it was intended, like I say. Instead of Desiree Akhavan standing there completely in the buff, we have Mark Duplass. Something that I never thought I'd see, and not sure I needed to see, but I have now, and that's it. It was a thing. It was a noticeable thing. And I just want to move on from that. That was the thing that happened, though, in this film. So yeah, Aaron definitely has a type, and Sarah isn't it. But I like how Sarah was portrayed. Like I say, she was a foil. She was there to challenge him. She was giving him different answers than, yes, sir, I'll do anything you want. Seeing this after, being reminded of what he liked with Dave at the start and, remembering Aaron from the first film, it did give us that great dynamic. There was a lot here to work with, and it was a lot of fun. Now, it is meant to be part of a trilogy. There were 3 years between the original two, so it's kind of due for the next one now. Whether it'll get made, given the current situation in the world, for a while, we'll have to wait and see. But I am curious to see what they do next with this. This felt very much like, the next chapter, and it did escalate. Things were different, like I say. There was a lot of nods back, there was a lot of hints, of what he was like to Sarah, and a lot of ideas that, could be expanded upon. Like, could we go into prequel territory with the next one, in fact, and see what happened before Aaron? Because as far as we know, we've had Aaron, Dave, and Sarah. He said that he's had 39, 40 including Sarah, in theory. So what about those 30-some other people? Could we see them? Could we see a younger Mark Duplass using wonderful de-aging technology, if they can afford it? Or do we just move forward? Is this idea that, he's kind of like come to a point where Why am I doing it anymore? I should just give up. And, you know, the sort of idea this portraying here, like he just doesn't have the heart anymore. Is this, as we're led to believe, is this something that he needed to do to revitalise it? And could we see Creep 3, the massacre, you know, where he does maybe 2 or 3 at once? Maybe it just escalates from there. There's a lot that could be done here. But there's a couple of things that this film mentions that I did want to sort of talk about, because there are things that I was like, that's a thing that's real. When you talk about beard patterns, I have a weird beard pattern scenario where if you look at old pictures of me, I only really have like the kind of that, like goatee / Van Dyke, whatever you want to call it. And I don't really have anything there. That's not by choice. I really cannot grow up here. Which suits my sort of, you know, feminine times, given that I do consider myself as a non-binary. You know, I do sort of have more feminine days, more masculine days. So for those feminine days, it's nice and easy. I've just got to get rid of this bit. But then he mentions that no, it's actually trichotillomania, which again was a thing that I'm like, I have that a bit. It's another good reason why I do shave a lot more now, because I do have that compulsion to pluck. It is a real thing out there. I think mine started maybe as a way of coping with my anxiety, because it gives that kind of it's almost like self-harming in a way. As much as I don't want to get too heavy and deep, it does have that kind of release for a lot of people, and it is a serious thing. If I can find anything about it down below and any help for it, I will put it there, like I always try to. But it is weird that this film, that, you know, is a very unique thing. You know, I mean, yeah, maybe there were hints of Leslie Vernon in this. It did exist before either of them. But the fact that it could give me 2 little bits about my real life was a bit unsettling. I feel a little too close to Aaron or Joseph or whatever you want to call him. Maybe that's another prequel idea. Find out who this guy really is. But this was, like I say, a great film for many reasons. You know, I really enjoyed it. Despite its flaws, I thought it really continued the story well. And like I say, if a third one's on the way, as they planned, I'm eager for it, and I hope you'll join me for that when it does come out. But until then, as always, thank you for watching, and take care. And we do get a full frontal nude shot. Noodle.